The National Geography Standards, Geography for Life, has one of its very key concepts is the word region. And region is an excellent term for a couple of reasons. First of all, because it puts it in control of the thinker. It's a construct. It's something people have developed. And actually their definition includes the idea that people define regions according to characteristics they recognize. It's a way of dividing up the world so that we can better understand it and, you know, put it in small pieces. But the fact is that people define these regions by multiple characteristics. So you could have language, religion, you know, where oil supplies are, where farming takes place, whatever it happens to be, these would be then economic regions, strategic regions. And that furthermore, the perception of region can change, resulting in new definitions over time. This is one of my beefs with the standalone geography course, which takes the entire world and studies it according to contemporary, often strategic regions, and gives you no opportunity as you take students down into these silos where each region is and try to teach them a little bit of the history. You have no way to connect with regions that in earlier times made sense, such as an Indian Ocean or Afro-Eurasia or any place where there were trade routes. It's all about contemporary and you cannot make those connections. So it violates its own, you know, to have a geography course that violates the very principles of the geography standards is really not good. Here's a very quick sort of introduction to the idea. Now I have some questions. There's one of the lessons that's in your disc has some questions to ask about use of this word region. My main beef is that if we use the word world, we're really sending a message, grinding this perception into students' minds that the world consists of multiple disconnected you know, worlds, and that each of these worlds is somehow homogeneous, isolated, and that not giving a picture of an interdependent world or of regions which are not homogeneous. And there isn't a single region in the world today that actually is homogeneous. So these questions will kind of help you at the beginning of the year, especially if you are involved in teaching a standards-based geography course, that you can sort of help to unpack these things. So here are just a few little facts, starting from the contemporary period as to where Muslims live. And these are things that you can play around with students with, because the idea of percentage versus absolute numbers comes into play when you talk about China. It's home to twice as many Muslims as in Saudi Arabia. Now who would have thunk it? As many Muslims live west of Pakistan as east of it. In other words, the demographic center of Muslim regions is, or the Muslim region of the world, the region where Muslims are a majority, is in fact Lahore, Pakistan. So as many Muslims live east of it as west. This totally debunks the idea of a Middle East-based Muslim world or Arab world. Only 12% of Muslims are Arab, and half the population of Africa, roughly, is Muslim, divided into many countries and not necessarily always accurately put down. We simply don't know, in the case of most of these countries, what the actual numbers or the actual percentage are, either because one country or another may ignore religion for ideological reasons. Another one, like the US, doesn't collect that data on its citizens, so it's very hard to know. And on the other hand, some that do divide it up, it gets crossed up with ethnic categories and so on. So we have about 50 countries that are Muslim majority in population, Indonesia being the largest majority population, and you'll have a chart there that I gave you with some recent statistics, around 200 million. India at about 144 million is the largest Muslim minority population. And the US and France, I mean, you've heard the numbers tossed around. Is it 5, 6, is it 2 or 3 million? How many is it? But roughly you might just estimate that the US and France have about 5 to 6 million Muslims or more, or less.